Hi and welcome. So this time around we have some interesting tools to take a look at, recent acquisitions. First among this list is a Banggood set of tools that they recently sent me. I've had a standing invitation to review their tools for several years now, and I sort of do it infrequently because pretty much I have pretty strict criteria to review a tool. One is it has to be relevant to the channel. There's no point in reviewing things that aren't related to machining and metalworking. So I don't review products outside that spectrum. And then number two, it has to look like it's worth recommending on the face of it. Now, I know I could review any product and just say, hey, this one's no good, I wouldn't recommend buying it. But that seems sort of pointless mostly. I mean, it might protect someone who's thinking about getting it and then, convince them not to get it. But for the most part, I'm looking for things that are, really good deals. So something that is a low price, but very reasonable and usable quality. And that's the kind of things I look for. And that's what this item in particular fit that criteria. So let's take a look at it. So the packaging, in the past I've reviewed their stuff and the packaging has been a problem. Stuff arrives broken all the time. And they seem to incrementally improve their packaging. So the outside is a bag, which is, really standard for them. A lot of time, that's about all you get, or a little bit of foam wrapped around the product. And this one, it's a styrofoam package that is, the styrofoam is reinforced with tape everywhere. They just literally cover this thing in tape. And then inside, some foam packaging on top. I'm pretty impressed. They seem to be improving their game a bit, because a lot of times things don't survive, or maybe this was the manufacturer and Banggood just sort of continue to just put it in a bag and shipped it. But for whatever reason, this is just glued together box and it arrived in one piece. So that's, to me, very impressive. Much better than usual. And might as well get into what the item is. So the item is a set of parallels, 8mm, close to 1/2 inch, but not quite. I mean, 12mm would be 1/2 inch. So it's closer to a 1/3 of an inch, I guess, because 8mm, 8.5 goes into 24, about 25.4, about 3 times. So these are about 1/3 inch parallels. It's a metric parallel set, and they wrap them all in the anti-corrosion stuff, which is pretty nice. It's a wooden box. They're metric sizes, but that's not a big deal. So they go roughly from just over 1/2 inch to 44mm, so 25.4, that's like an extra 19, sort of 18. So this is almost 1 3/4 down at this end here. The packaging is good. They have some pretty bold claims for these. When I was looking at this, the price is $127.99, which is a really good price for 1/2 inch parallels. They're claiming that they're accurate to 0.05 millimeters, or 5 microns. So we'll take a look at that. That's about 2/10. They claim their Rockwell hardness 52 to 58. Here's their specs. They say they're 6 inches long, roughly 150 millimeters. That's just a tiny bit under. 8.5 millimeters wide. And then they say their sizes may vary by 1 to 5 millimeters, just because they're manually measured. Now, $127 isn't for free by any stretch, but it is a really good price relative to other parallel sets. I just looked up some on MSC here. So here's an SPI set, Swiss Precision Instruments, $453 price. They have a value collection with about as many pieces as this one, although these are not metric, $288. There's $224 for a much smaller set. And then if you went for the Starretts, which are at the bottom here, Starretts, $979, and that's also a much smaller set. So on the face of it, this is an excellent deal. I'm going to finish unwrapping all these, and then we're going to just check these for the specs that count most, which is, number one, did they actually go to the effort of hardening these? That is a very useful feature. And if they didn't, then they'll wear quicker, and that'll be a little bit problematic and a negative. Second of all, are they actually as parallel as they say individually, and do the pairs themselves match each other? Those are important, and it looks like the finish is pretty nice. It's got this waxy coating on everything, so I need to remove that as well before we measure, because at the precision we're going to try and check these at, that'll affect the measurement. One thing I noticed is these are solid. They don't have holes in them, which some parallels do. The holes can be really handy if you want to bolt them down to something, but they might affect the flatness over the distance. I was thinking about that as I was looking at some of my other parallel sets. Some of the sets do have that set of holes in them, which are handy, but it may degrade from the accuracy if you're looking for that kind of ultra precision. Okay, so these cleaned up pretty quickly. It didn't take much time at all with some isopropyl to clean these off. So I was just going to look at some of the dimensions that they don't really, what these things really need to be is parallel, top to bottom face here. The rest doesn't matter. Like, are they exactly, is this exactly 14 millimeters high? That's really not that important. According to calipers, they're 13.98. They are very roughly 6 inches long or 150 millimeters long. Seems like this one's a little bit big. And the thickness, 8.5, which is what they're claiming, 8.5. I typically, don't rely on those measurements. These aren't gauge. This isn't a gauge block set. What really matters is the top face parallel to the bottom face, and we will take a closer look at that, because that actually is very important when you're putting things in the mill vise and you want to make sure that they're accurate. So as far as the other measurements, they say 1 to 5 millimeters variation. Well, I think they're much better than that. We're going to check some hardness here, and we're going to start with the side that doesn't matter. To be honest, this makes me cringe quite a bit, taking this beautiful surface and damaging it. But we need to do it to make sure that their claims are what they say they are. So we've got our 0 set here, and we'll let it go. Seems moderately hard because the needle's not moving terribly fast. That's a good sign that it's not penetrating deeper and deeper. Let it go for 15 seconds. And what do you know? Rockwell 54.5. So that's right where they said it was. 52 to 58, that's right in the middle of that. So they really are hard. If the side turned out to not be hard, then what I was going to do is I was going to do the top, which really would kill me. But since the side is hard, then I'm going to assume that the top is as well, because the side is the part that doesn't matter. Now I just put a dimple in this, and at some point I might want to use the parallel this way, which occasionally I do when I'm not doing a precision height set. So in order to make sure that that works properly, take my precision ground flat stone, and you can remove the little dimple it leaves as it lifts up material off the surface, so that at least it's flush. And I would have done that on the top if I'd actually taken one of these and checked hardness on the top. But it doesn't seem like I need to damage the top, because again, the side is Rockwell C54, so I'm guessing the whole thing is going to be. So next up, let's take these guys over and measure them. We'll start with checking parallelness of one bar to itself. That's a very useful thing. They need to be parallel, especially one to itself. And then how are the pairs, how well matched are the pairs? Hopefully they ground them together so they're very close to being a good match together. Here's a set of the 30 millimeter parallels, and I've checked them. I don't feel any burrs on here. Maybe there's some small ones. They did a nice job cleaning them up. So I've zeroed my electronic indicator here to 0. It's set to 1/10 per division for the small divisions. And as we slide down here, we shift by about 1.5 tenths over the whole range for this guy right here. And you can see it's repeatable. That one, now we hit almost 2 that time. So about 1.5 tenths, as you can see here. And how parallel is it to its neighbor? So there's the same edge, and look at that, it's right on the money. Right on the money. And going down to the other side, this one's down about 1/10. So these two sets, these two parallels vary about 1/10 from each other. Let's take a look at one more just to verify this. Here's my second set of parallels that I'll check. This is the 24 millimeter set, which is close to an inch. 25.4 millimeters is an inch. So this is very close. So here we are at 0, And as we go down to the other end, plus 1.5 millimeters. And it repeats. Getting these guys to repeat is, you know, you have to have everything really rigid. So you have to enter the indicator point the same way each time. If you come in sideways, then it tweaks a little and you can be off like a tenth or two. So between the two sets of parallels, this one there is a tenth difference. And it's only a tenth from one end to the other. So actually this end is right on. So if I had it this way, it must have been ground like this. That's right on 0. So accurate within a tenth. Oh, came off the end again. If you come in this indicator sideways a little bit, you can vary by a tenth or two. So I try and enter the same way each time. Then going down the length of it, about 1.25 tenths on this one. So the second set of parallels, 2 tenths for one of them, 1 tenth for another. Well within their specs of about 2 tenths, plus or minus 2 tenths. So that is better than their advertised accuracy. So that's very impressive. Just for the heck of it, I'm kind of curious to see how flat they are on the sides. So why don't we take a look at that too? While they make no promises about the thickness, well, 1 to 5 millimeters, plus or minus 1 to 5 millimeters about the sides of these guys, I was kind of curious how flat they are side to side. And okay, 1.5 thousandths on that. So don't use these lying flat if you want super accuracy, because they vary about 1.5 thousandths. Yeah. And to each other, just for the heck of it. Probably plus or minus 0.5 thousandths to each other. Overall, I consider the Banggood set a complete win. 18 pieces. That comes out to like $7 and something a piece. I don't know how they make it for that. It's hardened steel. $127.99 is their current list on this guy. And here are the dimensions and the specs that they claim, which they seem to meet and then some. So surface accuracy within about 2 tenths, and quench to 52 to 58 hardness. Yeah, that's about 54 hardness. They are 150 millimeters long, plus or minus 1 to 5 millimeters, and they meet that spec. I think it's a great value for the money. The only downside is you have to wait for it to be delivered from overseas, and that takes some time.